If it gets up to the roadway, that's when I'm probably going to leave. I think I'm going to be sleeping with my big, huge flashlight.
Well, breaking now at 11, a KGW weather impact alert as flooding concerns ripple through the Portland metro and beyond, with an atmospheric river delivering a day-long onslaught in the form of heavy rains, gusty winds, and it's not over yet. The latest storm barreling through as thousands of people remain in the dark, still picking up the pieces with the lingering threat of downed trees, power lines, and landslides. We have a lot to get to on this Thursday, including some breaking news just in Clackamas County with mandatory level 3 go now evacuations along the Molalla River just east of Molalla. This is in the Shady Dell area. This is for homes along Shady Dell Road and Fawn Lane. County authorities saying there is now an extreme risk for that neighborhood, telling folks to leave as fast and safely as possible. We have live team coverage tonight. Celine Stevens tracking the rain and when it might finally taper off. But first to Alma McCarty along the Clackamas River, which is under a flood warning as well. Alma, could be touch and go tonight for a lot of folks. What are you seeing right now?
Yeah, David, certainly touch and go. We are on the lower Clackamas River in the High Rocks area. And even though it's pretty dark out here, you could probably see the river really rushing below me. And you can also see that it is still rising tonight. Along the Clackamas River,
I'm very, very fortunate, and I count my blessings every day.
But late Thursday evening, Carol Buck, who lives in Carver, is wary.
But right now I'm kind of counting the feet the river are up. I think I'm going to be sleeping with my big, huge flashlight. And like I said, I'm going to be watching it because when it comes to a certain point, then I think any intelligent person would go.
Even in the dark, it's not hard to see the river or hear it for that matter. Outside this mobile home park on the river's northern bank, there's a warning sign. And online, many more. Clackamas County officials directing folks to keep checking their flooding webpage, their Facebook page, or download the Sheriff's Office app for real-time updates and alerts. With flood warnings now in place from Estacada to Carver to Oregon City, officials warning that people living on both sides may fall into a level 1 or level 2 evacuation zone as the downpour continues and the waters continue to rise.
Yes, if it comes up to the grassy area, I'm not too worried because it's done that before. But if it gets up to the roadway, that's when I'm probably going to leave.
All right, back here at High Rocks. Again, it's night, but that didn't stop from several people from stopping by here and really checking out where the water levels are at right now. And right now, NOAA is forecasting that the river is going to peak and potentially hit major flood stage in the early morning hours. David, back to you.
I have a feeling a lot of folks in that area will have a sleepless night. Appreciate it, Alma. Let's bring in Celine Stevens now, track the latest on the flood watches and all the warnings and when we might finally catch a bit of a break. Celine?
David, luckily soon, at least for us, our area here in Portland, but kind of going off of Alma's story with the rivers, like for us, for instance, in the Yamhill River in McMinnville, their flood warning went from minor to moderate. So the risk is just growing for a lot of rivers, even though the rain is starting to die down right now. Right now, sitting at 50 degrees, and if you take a look, the rain is finally pushing past the Portland area. So winds coming out of the northwest at 12 miles per hour. Taking a look at our radar, you'll see that rain really just at the 11 o'clock hour has finally started to move out to the east. It's going to be approaching the Mount Hood area now. They're going to see more of that heavy, significant rainfall towards Sandy now at this point. But Portland really is going to get better from here on out. That said, like we just mentioned, some rivers at this point now going from minor to moderate flooding risk. So all because the rain's dying down again, as we've been saying all night long, it does not mean that the flooding potential is going anywhere. So looking at our watches and warnings, again, we have this flood watch from the coast all the way nearly to the mountain that's going to continue through Saturday morning. We also have a winter storm warning and a winter weather advisory as well for the Cascades that will be going into effect tomorrow. But again, it's really just that flooding that now we're continuing to look at as we get into the next 24 hours and even into the weekend. Taking a quick moment to look at our winds, looks like 12-mile-per-hour winds here at home. The wind advisory, the high wind warning along the coast has finally expired. The Dalles is seeing a wind advisory, however, their wind speeds aren't too bad at the moment. David, I'll have more for you in a bit.
Appreciate it, Celine. You know what? We're also keeping an eye on Johnson Creek, where just like the Clackamas, there is a flood warning in spots. Just a live look at southeast Portland near Johnson Creek and southeast 45th. Gauges show the creek is already into minor flood stages. Look at it go, particularly to the east at Cal Butte and Sycamore area. The water's forecast to peak here within the next few hours. Some folks we talked to earlier, including Brian Jetty, say they are watching things very closely.
Definitely flooding, some of it getting up to people's houses and things like that. So, if we can help out to prevent that, that's what we're here for. So.
Well, the city had free sandbag filling stations open, including at Lentz Park. Another spot, our roadways. Here's one spot on Northwest Kaiser Road in the Bethany area that was shut down near Germantown because of high water. It's after a culvert filled with water there pooling onto the roadway. The experts cannot say it enough. Turn around, don't drown. If you come across standing or moving water, do not chance it. Remember, just 6 inches is enough to sweep a person off their feet. Another reminder, always assume downed power lines are live and call 911 if you are trapped. When you get the chance between storms, make sure your gutters and drains, by the way, are cleared in order to keep water moving.
This is one of those all hands on deck situations where we've been out all night and we're going to stay out until everyone is back up and running.
Which means they are still out because thousands of people are still in the dark across the Northwest tonight. PG showing they've got it down to about 8,000 customers, give or take. Pacific Power dealing with about 14,000, including some 12,000 customers without power in the Lincoln City area alone. Clark County, the number is a little bit better, hovering around 1,000, give or take. Okay, we're also watching for school closures or late starts for Friday. Right now, the list is pretty short, but it is growing. Tillamook Bay Community College is closed. The Lincoln County, Cascade, and Dayton school districts are all starting 2 hours late. You can find this list anytime. It's at kgw.com/closings. And stay with us for continuing coverage of this atmospheric river and our weather impact alert. However long it lasts, we'll be tracking it all overnight and first thing in the morning, starting on sunrise. That is bright and early at 5 a.m. Well, new tonight, major developments in New England, where authorities announced the man suspected of killing 2 students at Brown University on Saturday has now been found dead, and they are also connecting him with the murder of an MIT professor in the Boston area earlier this week. Tonight, law enforcement identifying the suspect as 48-year-old Claudio Neves Valente. They say the 48-year-old Portuguese national, now U.S. permanent resident, was a graduate student at Brown in 2000 and 2001. Authorities saying they used tips, video evidence, and rental car records along with phone data to track him to a storage facility in New Hampshire, where they say he was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
We are coming to you tonight because the federal complaint was unsealed, and we wanted to provide you with the information and to assure the public that law enforcement collectively believe that we have the person, that we identified the person, and that person is dead, and that he was the person responsible not only for the Brown shootings, but for the Brookline shooting.
Authorities added the MIT professor here who was killed attended the same academic program as the suspect at a university in Portugal in the 1990s. A reminder, if you or someone you know is struggling, help is available 24/7. Just call or text 988. It's the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It provides confidential support and crisis resources. Again, that number is 988. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, Portland police are asking for help identifying a man they say who robbed a restaurant at gunpoint. This was on November 22nd along Northeast Sandy in the Park Rose neighborhood. Police say the man in these photos should be considered armed and dangerous. Staying in Multnomah County, local organizations that work with immigrants could soon see a boost in funding after commissioners passed a resolution to bolster the county's sanctuary status. It includes a one-time fund of $250,000 to support groups offering services to immigrants. Now, most of that is set to be given to providers already contracted by the county. The resolution, which passed unanimously, also directs county departments to make changes to improve accessibility to services, such as allowing for virtual appointments. And despite a string of high-profile layoffs, the Oregon Employment Department says the state's job market is actually on track to grow. New projections show 6% gains over the next decade, or about 141,000 jobs. Healthcare, construction, and professional services are leading the way. State officials say even as unemployment ticks up, sitting now at 5.2% in Oregon, demand for workers here is growing. New tonight, new reaction to tragedy in North Carolina, where a plane today carrying retired NASCAR driver Greg Biffle crashed and exploded, authorities say, while trying to land. It turns out Biffle grew up in Camas and spent some 18 years climbing to the top of his sport. Catherine Cook spoke with those who knew him about what made him special beyond the track.
Greg Biffle hasn't lived in Camas for a long time, but his roots are still here. So are the signs of what he'll always mean to this community and the Northwest.
Congratulations to the 16.
You're the man. That was awesome. Way to go. Way to stay with it.
The year was 2013. Race car legend and Camas native Greg Biffle had just notched his final NASCAR win, the Quicken Loans 400.
It's definitely a special day. You know, it was Father's Day, my first, Emma's first victory lane.
Biffle's family would remain the center of his world until Thursday, a day no one could have imagined.
Plane just crashed at Lakewood.
Biffle, his wife, their 2 kids, and 3 others were killed when the small jet plane Biffle owned crashed at an airport in North Carolina. That's according to a statement released by NASCAR. It's unclear who was flying the plane.
It was hard.
Ron Hughley is still processing the news. The Portland International Raceway GM met Biffle 30 years ago, even raced against him at the old Portland Speedway. And last summer, long after Biffle retired from the track, he welcomed him back to PIR for the ARCA race.
It was just good to see him here, back doing what he loves doing. Anytime something senseless happens, it hurts, of course, but Greg was a champion. He was a great guy, true humanitarian.
Never was that more evident than last year after Hurricane Helene devastated North Carolina, where Biffle lived. Biffle used his personal helicopter to help victims and deliver supplies. This video shows a victim signaling for help with a mirror, one of many whose homes were destroyed.
It's been a great thing. It's a great feeling to help someone out of that situation.
Biffle also recruited other NASCAR teams to help during the aftermath. Former Camas Mayor Scott Higgins remembers watching.
And I hope the community takes that lesson. That it's like when you've been blessed, when you've been given opportunity, you don't just sit back and enjoy that. You help others. And I could see that a lot in his life.
A life Higgins wanted to honor. In 2006, when Camas celebrated its centennial, the city declared this part of Lake Road Greg Biffle Boulevard. The sign is still here.
It's really just an honor to say, you know, hey, you're from our community.
Only now, it means a lot more.
I'm sure there's a whole lot of people hurting a lot right now.
In Camas, Catherine Cook, KGW News.